Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and joining me today is Alyssa Tobias. And Dallas is here too. Alyssa's mission is to provide senior living coordination, advocacy, and education to older adults, seniors, and families by offering valuable information, referrals, and empathetic guidance needed to make appropriate decisions regarding senior living, home care, and supportive services. This includes, but is not limited to, education on senior topics for community members and professionals. The guidance Alyssa provides helps seniors stay home or transition successfully into a new senior opportunity. Exceptional service is something she will not compromise on. Let her help you navigate the journey. I am excited for this conversation. It's so necessary.
Yay! I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing this. It's another one of those under-discussed conversations, and I'm just going to let my world know Dallas won't leave my side. It's been a couple of rough days over here, and I just had to talk with my brother and tell him I'm probably not going to get to visit Michigan for Thanksgiving. Haven't seen my nieces for a while, so she knows, and she's comforting Mama.
You know what? That's what they're there for. They know everything. We have smart animals.
And you know what? They're kinder on World Kindness Day.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Unconditional love. So tonight's girls' night, just so you know, with me and the dog. So yeah, there'll be some wicked singing this evening. I'm sure you will understand and do that with your own dogs as well.
We make up our own words over here. That used to drive my brother crazy as a child. I find it totally fun, and Jim loved that about me. Just, whatever mood we're in, whatever we want. So I don't know if you have to stick to the lyrics.
I don't stick to the lyrics. Only when I'm doing a chorus line do I stick to the lyrics. Wizard of Oz, Fiddler on the Roof, the oldies, the classics. But, I need some of my words because the vision goes like everything else. So, but I am popular. I want to be popular.
Not many. We both do things others steer away from. You've been passionate about this forever. How did you come to what many run from?
Wow. This is my story. I mean, when I was in my teens, my grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it killed me. I didn't understand it. And my dad was an only child, and we did not have resources at all. So when she got to the point where she could not live independently, she moved to a nursing home in Detroit called Borman Hall. Back in the day when it opened, like 500 years ago, it was respectable. When my grandma got there, it was horrific. The care was horrific. She sat in a wheelchair all day. Thank God she was in a happy phase of her Alzheimer's, because it could have been different. Everything was stolen off of her. And I have the last probably living thing on my finger right here, because no one knew it was her engagement band. So my parents found it and cleaned it, and they gave it to me. And I felt so bad for my dad, because he was the only child and he couldn't help his mom. And my soul was born 90. So I always hung out with seniors since I was a little girl, like birth. And my grandma is the reason I do everything. I hope she would be incredibly proud that I have focused and dedicated my entire life to the aging community. Everything I do is having to do with advocacy, making people's lives better who are aging, and educating people now my age, because I'm 56, I'm now considered one of the people I service. So it is my life's mission on a much grander scale, because just like what you do in grief, the seniors are the most neglected group of people. And I see elder abuse. I see things that nobody would ever want to see, just like you see when you're grieving and you're alone. Imagine being 90 and everyone around you is gone and you're just waiting to die. That's not my mission is to make sure that you have dignity, you have safety, you're in a place of love, even if you're unhappy, because no one knows what it's like to age until you're there. And we don't talk about it because it's not pretty. Because once we're past Botox and it's not respectable, then we're done with that. And the life lessons you learn from older people are the biggest value I could ever, we always talk about, I need to look like this. I have to be this size. I have to, aspire to live in this area. So this is what I'm going to tell you. When you turn to be 75, 80 and you get around there, none of that crap matters. And what matters is your dignity. Who's going to pass first? Who of your friends, what your life looks like. But the biggest thing I deal with that people talk to me about is they don't want to be cognitively impaired. And it's not something we ever discuss because it's taboo. So I bring that out of the closet because I'm also a certified dementia practitioner, a grief person like you, not nearly on your level, but you're namaste to you, girl. You're the best. And that's basically my story. And my grandma inspired me. I started working in senior care. I was blessed to have the most incredible women mentors. My first job was the senior, oh my gosh, my title was the senior activities person at the JCC in Oak Park, but that wasn't the actual title. And I worked with the most powerful, impressive women. So if you're out there listening, Leslie Bash, Leslie Magidson, Marion Friedman of blessed memory, Carol Kazander, who is one of the biggest rock stars I know, all of these women were my mentors. And they really inspired me, along with my father-in-law, may he rest in peace, to apply for graduate school. And then I got my master's at the greatest university in the world. Go Blue. Yes, forever. And that's my story. And my mission now, I work full time and I started my own business, and it's just incredible. The need is so great.
One of the things you told me when we were talking is that people do not talk about the expense, and that our generation and everyone behind us is not going to be able to take care of ourselves, the ones we love. We also don't talk. I mean, I tease that I'm already losing it. And what about those we love who are older than us and needing services? These are the reasons we need to have the conversation. Yes. To be able to plan.
There's so many things people need to know. So my next venture, on top of working 7 days a week, seeing clients, speaking everywhere, is to write a book, What to Expect When You're Aging, because guess what? We don't talk about it and it's not pretty. And everyone needs to, what to expect when you're expecting when you have kids. We talk about every phase of life except aging, because people don't want to talk about it because the reality is scary. But when I go into a dining room of 80 people, it's my dream. The pleasure that we bring as an older adult to people that are older, you cannot imagine. They're, it's like Peter Pan. They're the lost people that everyone forgets about. And everyone forgets that the generation I have followed for 30 plus years since I got my master's is the greatest generation that ever lived. Literally, I have had the privilege of working with every kind of veteran known to man who really made our country what it was. And it is a privilege for me when I know I could be there and most likely be there with impairment, and we're still the same people. I work with people that invented parts for Ford, GM, inventors, lawyers, doctors that discovered things, and maybe now they have dementia, a form of that. And the expense that you were talking about, hey, sandwich generation, if you're listening, you're taking care of grandchildren, you're taking care of your adult children financially, and you're trying to pay for your own living. So guess what, government, if you're living, this is the silver tsunami is coming, and we are not prepared. We need better funding. We need to make sure we can pay for it. So I throw this out. When I usually start a conversation, and I'm in a big group, I say, guesstimation of what you think just on a mediocre memory care, just a mediocre baseline, like not your high end. And people are like, $4,000, $5,000. I'm like, wrong. $10,000 on the minimum side for memory care. Assisted living, depending on the kind of assisted living, whether it's all inclusive or whether it's rent and then packages of level of care, depending on your level of care, you could be 10,000 there, and then you have to move to memory care. So if you've worked your entire life and your whole life you saved, and that's our generation, that's the generation below, how are you going to pay? How are you going to pay to live? Because as you know, and I don't know what it's like in Colorado, but I can tell you in Michigan, on every corner, there is an assisted living, an independent living, a memory care, a skilled care. It's like Starbucks for seniors, and people can't afford it. So at the end of the day, There are some places I'm certain that are completely 100%, but the reality is it's impossible because it's not covered by insurance. People, it is private pay. And if you are lucky enough to have long-term care insurance, if you are, and good luck getting it now, because the insurance companies do not, they've figured it out. They don't want to pay. So in about 10 years, you're going to have a bunch of baby boomers with no money, nowhere to live, and their adult children won't be able to care for them because they'll be caring for their children, their college expenses, or whatever their lifestyle is. Because we are living in a world financially now that was not the same. And I don't mean politically. It's just a different world financially, and expectations are different. And I am terrified. I'm terrified for what is around the corner because it is real. The struggle is real. I live it every day. And as you know, most seniors don't want to leave their home. So I have to be that person to help the family because they don't want to be the bad guy. And I have to do that. But I do it out of love because you can't live in a condo with 4 sets of stairs if you have arthritis, if you are visually impaired, if you are cognitively impaired, if you are over a certain age. It is a detriment. And my common quote that everybody knows is we're all one broken hip away from rehab, and then it all goes downhill from there. And that is the truth. So when I come to people and I say, I think this is the direction we need to go, and they fight me on it, I'm like, you have every right to feel that way. And the choices in your life are yours. You can live at home, and you can live with the fact that it's not if, it's when something's going to happen, or you can make a transition while you have the cognition and the independence to make your own choice of what that looks like to you. And I'm a huge advocate for living in communities because it's not the home. It's not the home that people perceive it to be. It is community living. And I am so blessed that the seniors that I get to see every day of my life are incredible. And they care for each other. They are the definition of community because 90% of the people that live in my community are widows or widowers. And you need that support at every angle. And you, above anyone in the universe, knows that feeling of grief and loneliness, there's not a cure for that. We don't get over grief. We move through grief. We never get better. We just learn to transition through it. And when you are blessed to live long enough to see most people you love leave you, your perspective on life changes. And mine does as a human because I see what the end of the tunnel looks like. And I want to advocate, educate, and make sure people out there know this is happening. And we can ignore it, and we can brunch, and we can work out, and we can go shopping, and we can live our lives in this bubble that most people live in because we don't want to face what is really the reality. So I am the senior whisperer, my friend, and that is what I do. And if she's watching, and I hope, my best friend's 103, and she's my other inspiration for what I do. They all are. And I love you all if you're watching. But I've known this lady for 7.5 years, and she's a part of my soul. So, I mean, that is the gratification of working with people that are older, that have more knowledge than we could ever hope to have, and learn from them. Because most people don't want to work with seniors. So when people say to me, how have you done this and work with seniors your entire life? And I look at them and I pause and I smile. I'm like, how do you not? My question to you is, how do you not? Because you're missing out. You're like literally missing out. And that's my response, because that is what people should say. We should all have a senior. I don't go a day without hugging at least 10. And we do make a difference in their lives. And when they tell you that, you can't put a price on that. You know, that's what people in our field that deal with people that are grieving, that are doing works of passion. You might not always reap it financially the way you think you should, but how you really reward yourself. I always say, whatever your religion is, it's like God's work. It's the work of people that have love in their heart for something so deep. And I know that sounds cheesy, but that's just truly the way I feel. I really feel that way. And I would never pick another occupation other than what you and I both want to be on Broadway. That didn't happen. So this is our Broadway right here.
Mine's more ESPN these days, but
Well,
I
I like that too.
feel that,
Love that.
the widow, the cognition, something happens when you become a widow or widower. So with the age, I feel that we will see these communities with younger populations very soon, because with my world, I'm seeing clients moving back, whether that's with their children into communities, because living on your own, your brain changes. That's proven. There are, I'm not the scientist who can explain it, but there are changes that happen. And if you don't have that support, living in a community and the benefits that it has, there are people coming back saying, I love this. And it isn't necessarily the I must, but maybe healing happens in a
It does.
community.
You're 100% right. And people that are older, when they think of moving to a community, and I have this conversation daily when I meet new people and they're going to move, I'm going to the home. You're sending me to the home. So let me tell you what not the home is. When I left today, happy hour was going on and some serious dancing and singing. And that's every Wednesday. Every Friday's happy hour. We're doing things to enrich their life, because you're not done at 75 or 80 or 90 or 100. When you're alive, I'm going to make you live your best life. That is my goal. I'm like your Julie McCoy / geriatric social worker / all encompassed into all of that love, all to advocate for seniors. And anyone who knows me knows, mess with my seniors. It's like my kids, my dog, my husband. I didn't put it in a specific order in case they're all watching, and I hope you are. But you know what I'm saying. And I just think it's really important that we are more in tune with aging people, because we're all going to be there. 75% of us are going to live to be past 85. Okay. Think of that number, and it's probably a little higher. And when you were talking about impairment, so this is a term I throw out to people when they start 65, 70-ish, MCI, mild cognitive impairment. You're losing your keys, you're losing your phone, you have brain fog, you come downstairs and say, I can tell you this, and my husband will tell you this too. I said, honey, I lost my phone. You didn't lose your phone. It's somewhere in the house. Somewhere in the house. No, it's not in the house. I'm sure I left it at work. I thought I've lost my glasses. I've lost my phone because I can't see without my glasses. I now have hearing aids because I can't hear. And that happened from COVID, which goes back to how our seniors are aging and what COVID did to seniors. That isolation for seniors during that period of time. And most of my people lived through the Depression, lived through World War II. They have lived through all of this. So to be isolated from the world, they used to tell me, at least during the Depression, they were outside rubbing, burning tires. They were together. They were community. Everybody helped each other. To not be able to see your children for over 2 years. And when we finally could have window visits, probably one of the most emotional things I've ever experienced in my whole life. The first resident that got to see their family and touch them through the screen. And that aged everybody by 10 years. And a lot of people, their cognition went downhill because you have to stimulate the brain, especially if you're impaired. And when people say, oh yeah, my mom's got dementia. I said, really? So she just has a car? Because dementia is a hub word. And so I said, what kind of dementia do they have? Just dementia. I said, no, it doesn't work that way. And if your doctor told you that, we should investigate more, because there are many kinds of dementia. 77% of all people who have a cognitive disorder have dementia. Then there's Lewy body. We know what Bruce Willis has. Frontal, temporal. That's the hardest. That's outbursts. That's a really hard kind of cognitive disorder. And everyone responds differently to their own form under the dementia hub. So when the person you love gets that diagnosis, this is where my problem comes in. So if there's doctors out there, don't be hating on me. This is what I'm going to say. When you have a senior in your office and they're moving to a community, take more than 5 minutes with them and do a real mini mental, and don't ask them who the president is, the date, the time, because they know that and they're rehearsing that because they've been through that before. And when a doctor, a neurologist, a primary care, I don't care what doctor gives you that diagnosis, my biggest pet peeve is, we'll see you in 6 months and we'll get you a CAT scan. Okay, hi. What if you were diagnosed with cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes. You see where I'm going with this. The first thing your doctor would say is, let's get you to a specialist. Let's get you on medication. We're not going to wait 6 months. We don't have 6 months to wait. And maybe they'll put you on medication and they'll start you on something, and that's fine. You just gave someone their diagnosis of how they're going to die. When you tell someone under the Dementia Hub, whether they have vascular, Lewy body, Alzheimer's, it doesn't matter. And there's also drug-induced, different kinds of drug-induced medication dementia. You have just told someone that over the years, this is going to be their demise, and you give them nothing. So I'm telling you, as a geriatric specialist, that's not okay. It's not okay. What's okay is to sit down with someone in an office, take their hand and say, this must be so difficult for you. I have a list of resources. The first one I'm going to give you is the Alzheimer's Association. We're going to get you to groups. I'm going to give you the National Institute on Aging that has all different kinds of information. That's 5 minutes. That changes someone's life. That changes someone's life. Because I just did a talk yesterday with my community, and I asked them, had anyone had these kind of experiences? And, we're in a group, so not everyone is just evolved into having the conversation. But after, I had several people privately come up to me and say, that happened to me. It happens to me all the time. I'm not being heard. No one's listening to me. And that really, there's nothing that upsets me more. And people who know that. Discharge planners know that. Doctors know that. And I will call you. If you're discharging someone to my community and they live independently and they have no resources, I just say to that person, I said, so this is what I'm going to tell you. There's no one there to help them. And the liability will be on the person who's discharging them because they're not in a safe environment and they're a danger to themselves and others. If someone's a danger to themselves or others and they're a senior and they have nobody there to help them, your job is to get them that resources. But no one wants, this industry since COVID has really changed so much. So there are so many layers to this onion of the aging field, whether it be moving, finances, dealing with the person individually. It's insane. And that's why we need to bring awareness to aging, because they are grieving every day over someone they lost, wanting to die. And you have to have those conversations, and their kids don't want to have those. And no parent, no matter what age you are, and the adult children, would you just tell my mom to please stop telling me like she's ready to die? I said, I will talk to her about that, because they can talk to me about that, but that's how they feel. When you lose everyone you love, you're ready. And we will not know from that yet in our life at this age that you don't normally, it's not quote unquote normal to constantly think about that. But when you reach a certain age, that's all you think about. So when someone passes in my building, or I know, and they passed in their sleep and they're in their 80s or 90s, that's so celebratory. That's what they pray for. Not a burden, cognition. They go to God. That's how they say, that's how they tell me it. And it's beautiful. And that's how it should be.
You know how I feel about the invisibles, the invisible awareness days, the invisible populations. And this is, feeling unheard, feeling unseen. It does not matter. So what do we do as the family members, as the caregivers? I had people I was on a call yesterday, the caregivers of, that is people who also need the support. They're tired, they're exhausted, they need help. So what do we do to advocate and be there for these people who are also invisible and need support on these awareness days that are not, the world isn't giving enough resources, support, doing enough for any of these people.
There's actually resources for caregivers. And if you actually Google it, if you just Google it, you Google resources for caregivers, National Institute on Aging. I actually just printed off a bunch of, when I speak, I feel it's really informative and important in my job to bring handouts. Seniors do not go online. Most of my people have flip phones. Some have iPads, some have iPhones, but the majority still have a flip phone. They don't, and I relate to that because I don't do electronics very well myself. So I'm right there with them. They're old school. They want something tangible. I want to read something. I want to stick it on my fridge with a magnet so that I can look at that and know that that's there. So yesterday I gave them a 12-step myth of what Alzheimer's is. I think it's really important to dispute fact from fiction because it's really scary. I also gave them, it wasn't on topic, but elder scamming. Huge. It is so huge right now. And it did happen to my mom, may she rest in peace. And she was scammed out of $6,000 on a fixed income. And it happens every single day. And more people than you know.
They're getting really creative. They're getting really good at it. They're doing things that if you're scared, you just wouldn't think otherwise.
So one bit of advice I would give people, and I know everyone has their different comfort level. If you are seeking care, you need to use a reputable care company that is insured and licensed and has vetted people, not just in Michigan, but vetted them nationally. Because caregiving is the kind of, when you get your CNA, and it's the hardest work and the most underappreciated work in the entire world. But because we are saturated with all kinds of senior living, it makes it very easy to job hop. What does that do? That transition affects our seniors. It affects how buildings run. And it's because people are not paid their worth. And when you're a caregiver, you want to make sure that caregiver is certified, is insured, because that is when elder scamming happens. When someone calls you up and says, hey, my friend's friend took care of my mom's friend. She's really amazing. Well, what are her credentials? What is her licensure? That's not, I know a lot of people do that, but I'm telling you, that's the number one scam right there, because you're groomed, just like child predators. When there's no one there to oversee, that happens daily. And I mean daily. So be aware of that. You can do what you want to do, and people are going to do what they want to do, and they're going to say word of mouth. But when everything's gone and stolen, like it happened to my grandmother, and that was in a nursing home, but in private duty, I'm giving you that heads up. Do your research. You're letting somebody take care of your loved one, and you need to know who's in your home and who's advocating for you. So that's the number one tip. And there are great care companies out there. Outside of my job, my other job, I work with an amazing company, and I'm going to shout you out, Care PRN. Love you guys. I love you. And I love them because they have the same moral compass as you and I. And I have to tell you, that is few and far between too. A lot of people in my industry are wonderful. They are. And there's a lot of people that do what I do in different facets of what I do. But there's a lot of people in it for the wrong intent. And that is scary. That is very scary. So that would be my first tip. My other tip would be engaged. If your loved one has to go to rehab, which 9 out of 10 times when they're living somewhere, a hip is broken, they're in the hospital, they're going to send them for a week for strength training, be there. Be there. Because you want to know something, skilled care, you need it, but the point of skilled care is point A to point B, getting you OT, PT, whatever it is you're working on, and out. It's not warm and fuzzy. There's not people like me coming to give you a hug and say, I love you. It's scary. And then you become institutionalized. So you get better, you're still weak, something else happens, and it's a back and forth. And that's how that starts. So it's really important to know reputation of places where your loved one will go, who is with them, how you advocate for them, and absolutely get their insurance, their licensure, because people will lie. And when they lie, people do bad things everywhere, and especially taking advantage of children and seniors. And they're both helpless populations that don't know they're getting taken advantage of, especially since technology has entered our universe and everything is technology. They can get into your stuff. So, having a moral compass and a good care company to refer to is really like a saving grace for me, because at least I know, and no one's 100%. I'm not 100%. I give it my 100%, but that's not realistic. But as good as it can be, that's who I want to work with. I want to work with you, and I want to work with them. And I want to work with people who love like me genuinely, that there's no ulterior motive. I truly believe when you are a good person and you do great things, it comes back to you, and it will. It will. And I speak to you personally because I think you're amazing. And I think amazing things are coming your way because you are so inspirational to so many people. You blow me out of the water, what you do.
You too. And I'm equally picky about who I refer to. I, at one point, could have been in an office with 30 other people and referred to the same 3 or 4 regularly.
Yep.
Because, like we've discussed, returning phone calls in a timely fashion, or how they respond to the people who need them when they need them. Life happens outside of business hours.
100%. And I am that person, and anyone who knows me, and my husband knows this too, and he's a funeral director, so he's 24/7, 7 days a week, and that's his life, and that's what we live with. But even though I'm not 24/7, I don't turn calls down. At 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, I'm on the phone because I feel bad. And maybe there are some boundaries I have to work with there, but in all honesty, I don't think I could wait till the next morning if I knew someone had an emergency and I knew I could give them a number or a resource that would take me 5 minutes. And sometimes it's 45 minutes or an hour. But at the end of the day, I know I'm doing the right thing. And I want to be involved. And I want people in my world to be like me and be like you, because you'd be really, really surprised, even in this industry, how many people are not like me and you. And everything in the world is not about money. It's not. It's a bigger picture than that. Well, little tidbit my husband taught me from being a funeral director: there's no pockets in shrouds. So, you don't get buried with your possessions. So the person you are in this universe now, who you are, and believe me, who doesn't want nice? We all want. But at the end of the day, what we do matters. That's what matters. It's not what people think, what they remember. It's how we make them feel. And I always tell that when people don't remember me because they're really into the full blown of their cognition, I might be their aunt, their grandma, but they remember my face. And they remember my face because how I make them feel. That's what people remember.
100%.
And believe me, when you are older, that satisfaction of someone who is impaired, when you know that they are suffering and you think in the back of your head, I hope that's never me. But it's going to be one of 3 of us. So the odds are very great in my favor with my history. And it doesn't mean just because a relative had Alzheimer's, you're going to get it. But the likelihood is more than not. It doesn't mean for sure. But, I'm very much like my grandma. And that you have to prepare in your mind for what could be, even though you don't want it. It's a dark place to go. But I want my family to know that when the money's done, and it will be, what they need to do. Because the last thing at this age that I want my kids to ever have to worry about is taking care of me financially. I get a little sappy about it because you don't want that for your kids. You want your kids, when they're older, to live their life, have their kids, if they so choose, to be happy in healthy relationships and not worry 20, 30 years down the road, are they working to care for their parents? That would kill me. That would kill me.
We have a question. I don't know if you see it on your end, so I will have 2 questions.
I can't see anything.
So, one, I think you're like me, and I think I already know the answer to this. So I don't believe that people have to live near you to reach out. So, one, if someone isn't near you, are they able to work out? And I have a dear friend in Colorado saying, my dad, I can't see Mandy if it's 68 or 88. His wife is 94. They live in their home, and I've tried to get and offer them help up and down stairs to do laundry, etc., and their insurance will cover it. They refuse. Is there a conversation I can have that may give them insight on that help is out there before they get to that stage that's necessary and something that they have to do?
100%. And I get this all the time. This is the in-between stage before we're really making a move and they don't want to move and before something happens. So this is what I would say. I always honor those people. I bring them into it because what happens when you get older is your children, adult children, start making decisions for you. I don't want someone making decisions for me if I'm cognitively well. That's disputable, but nonetheless, what I want her to do is go in and sit with her parents when it's a good moment, not like when we're just sitting down to have a meeting, very nonchalant, and say, I've been thinking about this and I know this isn't something you want. I don't like to use the word help. I like to use the word resources. Help makes us feel victimized. And no one who's older wants to feel like they have a need. So in these difficult conversations, I would sit them down and say, I want to honor you. I want to honor how you want to age. And the reality is, as much as I want you to live here and I want this for you, that is not realistic. it. And I want you to be a part of the journey. I don't want to make decisions for you. It's not happening now. These conversations, by the way, this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm 56. These are conversations I've had a little bit with my kids, but they will know. They will know when they're old enough. They are old enough. They're 20 and 25, and they know that there's a certain way you do things when you age, and we have to talk about that. So one of us, and I hate saying that, one's always goes first, right? I mean, like we don't get to pick that. I want them to be prepared to handle every situation as it comes down the road. And of course your kids don't want to talk about it, but I'm cognitively aware enough that I know what I want. And the one thing I do, yes.
I'm just curious though, because I can tell you right now, my mother would not have this conversation with me. It has to be my brother. It doesn't matter what I say, how I say it. I could practice 100 ways, say it nicely, right? Like she's very
then I guess your brother, if
right?
your brother's listening, then there's always someone that might be the person who will initiate it.
Now I have to be the one to have the conversation with my dad though, right? Like it's equally.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not that I can't do it, but I can't do it with her.
No, listen, it's amazing. We all have our own journey with our family, and both my parents are gone. And it was a struggle. I mean, it was a struggle. I grew up with not a lot of means, which is why my dad had to and that was putting her in one of the worst places known to man. I had to learn to be resilient at a very young age, and very creative. And the fact of the matter is this: your brother might have to sit down with your parents and say, okay, fine, you don't want to hear it. And that's great. That's great. You don't have to take my advice, but this is the way the world works. I want to honor how you want to age. I want to honor that for you. Everyone's going to get to a point, whether it's physical, cognitive, emotional, we will all get there where we can't live by ourselves. There are the rare people. I know there's people out there. Yeah, my grandma lived 95 in her apartment. Great. She shouldn't have. No, you shouldn't have. Glad she did. Loneliness is depression. Okay. Why would you ever want to be alone when you could be in a community where people are just like you? I feel like where I work by day, it's college, camp, all at the same time. I mean, most of my women did not have the privilege of going to college. It's like the dorm room 2.0 plus lots more fun. It's very fun where I live. I think people are kicking it up all the time. And there's a stigma, just like there's a stigma attached with mental health. There's a stigma attached with grieving. There's a stigma attached with aging. We are here to change that. That's what I'm here to do. No one wants to get older, but if you're going to get older, you might as well make it a party, man. I mean, you may as well enjoy and live your best life.
Yeah. And she likes the words honor and resources. So,
and the thing is, for me, it's better to have these conversations when both your parents have their cognition, because when one doesn't and one does, then that person, and we're going to talk about the caregiver, caring for the caregiver, and there are support groups for those people. So if you are out there and listening, there is support for you. Statistically speaking, not like a hired caregiver, but a family member caregiver. And I've seen this time and time again in the 30 plus years I've been doing it. The caregiver who's caring for the person who is ill usually goes before the person who is ill. And that is a huge problem, because the caregiver is giving everything of themselves. And usually if it's a spouse or a family member or an aunt, whoever it is, they're around the same age. So when you're the same age caring for someone, you're neglecting yourself. So it is imperative to care for yourself as a caregiver. And there are resources out there. And if you don't think there are, you can Google me or find me and I'll get them for you. I promise you that, because you're not alone. And there's nothing more lonely feeling that you're taking care of someone and you don't feel supported because you're isolated. But believe me, there's more of those people than they even know. And if they knew there was a community to support them. I mean, I've been thinking heavily about doing an online, group for people of this nature, but my lack of...
Hello.
I'm so sorry. In real time. That's not good. Not good at all. Everyone, that's Nala.
I'm surprised mine aren't saying hello back.
Oh, I'm sorry. She must have seen a truck. which was very important. I'm so sorry. See, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry because of the dog.
No, that's okay. No, husband and his mom, exactly what you're saying. Somebody passed 8 days away after 2 deaths, 8 days apart.
Oh my gosh. So it is that kind of grief, 8 days apart. I mean, like, you there's no words for that, like that is true grief. And we work through it. You know this. I mean, when we lose the person that is our other half, it's never healing completely. We just know they're with us. And I believe that. Like there are times, and I'm not kidding, I'll look up and, just yell at a family member, talk out to them, and I'm pretty sure the dog thinks I'm nuts, but that does happen. It does happen. And I truly believe energy is around me. And I think there's good people surrounding me. I'm praying for that because I feel that. I think that, we do work that other people can't or aren't able to. And it is so important for me to be that navigator for those who don't know how to do it. Because I always say you don't have an aging parent till you have one, right? So how would you know how to do it? How our parents parented their parents are much different than how we are helping our own parents. And when you don't like your parents or you don't get along with them, let's be honest. Let's have a real conversation. Not everyone's like, woo, love parents, woo, had the greatest childhood ever. It's just not real. So there's a lot of resentment that I deal with of people that have aging parents and they don't want to help because of their anger. And this is what I say. So when they say, oh, you don't know what they were like when I was growing up. And I say, I don't care. You want to know something? I know them now. My job as an advocate is not, no offense, to get you through your childhood trauma. It's to help your family member. And I can refer you to someone for your childhood trauma because we all have it. I don't know anyone who had a perfect upbringing. I don't know anyone whose life was just walking through the daisies because that's just not real. And if someone says it is, I call you know what on that. See, I didn't swear. I could have, but I didn't. But it's true. And I'm out there being the person saying the things that people don't want to say. And anyone who knows me knows I don't have a problem doing that either. I think it's important to have hard conversations. I think it's important to advocate even when we don't like them, because we know that we're doing the right thing. We don't have to like the process. You find people to support you who are in the field that can navigate that for you, because I deal with lots of angry kids. And because of they're angry, when their parents are like 80, they're like, I'm just going to check out. I guess it's their problem now. I said, well, it's really not your problem. It's the universe's problem and it's karma's problem, and your children are watching. If you don't have children, your families are watching. How, I'm not going to claim to say that I had the perfect relationship with my mom, but I can tell you this, and I had this conversation with my daughter. She never heard me yell at her or say anything like that, never. And I never talked poorly about her, but she knew about my childhood and what the struggles I had. And I think it's really important that children know the honest truth. And my husband was instrumental, especially in the last 3 years, because, you work through your own stuff. So when it got to the point where it was tough, he helped with the finances and, each sibling did what they could. But near the end, I think he was like the rock that kind of kept that situation together, because even if you're a professional, even if you're at the best at what you do, when it affects you, you are not the best at what you do. You're just another person suffering, and you have to own that. And I am not one to always say I'm wrong because that's a hard thing. But when I'm wrong, and we all have to kind of own that. Sometimes I make mistakes at work and I grow from them. My big mistakes make me a better person and I achieve more. So I wouldn't be here with you if other things hadn't happened in my life to get me to where I am now. And it's so important. I just think that there's so many people like us that are struggling out there dealing with aging parents. And they're just like, what do I do? Why isn't there a course? Why don't they tell you this? Well, because no one wants to get old.
Well, and that's my frustration. The burden shouldn't be on the caregivers. It shouldn't be up. That's why I'm doing the work, trying to make these awareness days legal and get them added to calendars and doing all of the things. That's why you're out there speaking. That's why we are being the voices. But until then, you can contact Alyssa, and it's not with an E, it's Alyssa, Alyssa Tobias. Is it .com or .org?
It is Alyssa J. Tobias, MSWCDPLLC.com. That's
We'll
why
put it in the notes.
my card on the back has the barcode,
The little code.
the QR code.
So we'll put all of that here, but you, like me, will talk to somebody whether they want to work with you or not. You'll give information.
Absolutely.
You'll just answer questions.
I will do whatever it takes. And I have clients. I have one in California. I have one here. It doesn't matter, because with the computer and with the help of my husband, I'm able to do this. I really am. And I think it's important for the people that are in your audience to know, they're not alone, no matter what your grief is. And don't ever feel like you are, because there are always resources out there. And that is what I said to my residents yesterday when I was speaking to them. When you're feeling in that place that's so isolated and you're by yourself, there's so many other people that are feeling that exact feeling. They just don't know how to express it or how to find it. And you are that person who created this like world of people of safety, and where people can speak how they feel without feeling judged or feeling bad about how they're feeling about things. And that's real. And being authentic, that is, I don't change myself for anyone. How I am with you is how I am with my kids, how I am with my husband, how I am with my seniors, how I am with my clients. This is it across the board. I'm normally funnier, but I'm trying to be professional, so.
We don't do that here.
I'm just trying.
We're just us.
We're just us. We didn't break out in show tunes, which was good. We could have done that. So
could have done that. We didn't break out in tears either. But for everyone, you can also see Alyssa again during Healing Together Through the Holidays. Yes. We haven't picked the exact date and time yet, but she will be speaking, doing her thing, singing.
I'll do whatever you want.
Doing it
and
all.
I feel privileged. I want to thank you for really just listening to me and wanting me to be a part of your world, because your world's beautiful, and you have turned something so painful, and which you live through daily, into such a beautiful thing. So, I mean, he's shining on you, and it's I feel it, so proud of you, and you are incredible. So yeah, we might end with a cheer or two. That's okay. But what you do is remarkable, and I'm so blessed and privileged to be a part of this upcoming event, because I feel lucky to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. And since we mentioned Josh, who is a funeral director, it's been a labor of not love in both of our worlds, trying to connect, and he is blessing us with his presence and speaking.
You will not be disappointed, I promise you. And as funny and great as I am, he matches that equally, if not better. And you will love your listeners will love his voice. That is, he has a radio voice, and he's not too bad to look at either. So you'll get that as well. But in all honesty, he's the best of the best. There's no one better in the Detroit area than my husband at Iowa Coffee.
We want to give a shout out to Detroit. Since
best funeral home in the state
of Michigan speakers, but I do want to throw out that he will be talking just about people being targeted and finances, and how there is a lot of planning that needs to go there. How I have a dear friend who is probably not 40 yet, who just lost her husband, and we don't want to think about these things. But there is a lot.
Arrangements. That's his specialty. I mean, and again, on that note, you want someone in that moment, whether it's in the emergency or the pre-planning, that is feeling you, that empathy, that really gets you, that is there. Like, I hear that all the time. Your husband was there for me. He's an empath. And, not everybody is in that field. So to know that you feel trusted and that someone's going to care for you, that's what you're getting. So it's like the double factor, they come to me first, and God willing, they will go to him to be in his care, because there's no better care. Yeah. There's another plug for Iowa Kaufman. There you go. That's what we do.
And it's extremely meaningful to me, because I will go ahead and say it. I did not receive a business card or a pamphlet. Everyone who knows me knows that story. And so, I have been trying to connect with funeral homes forever. So the fact that he's willing to give his time, you deal with grief all the time, but he's taking time away from that to be a part of an extremely important and meaningful event. Yeah. Final thoughts and words for everyone listening about aging well, about talking about aging.
So this is my final words. We're all going to be there. Educate yourself, advocate for yourself, advocate for the people you love and even the people you don't, because your children are watching, and how we deal with our families is how our children are going to know how to deal with us. So that is one final word. And know that go hug a senior whenever you see them. That is the most therapeutic thing in my life. No one walks past my office without a hug. I mean, that's what we do. Touch, and we'll talk about that next time, that missing touch. So yeah, I would just be a good human, hug a senior, and know that there's advocacy, education, and there are people like myself out there that are here to help you.
Thank you so much for making time with your busy world.
Oh,
We will put the links.
anytime.
I'm not even going to try and repeat the website. We will put it in the comments.
That's why
Alyssa
there's the
Tobias.
QR code.
But you can just Google her name and it does pop up. It's Alyssa with an ALYSSA.
I know, it looks like
Until next
Alyssa.
time, everyone,
Thank
always
you.
be ruthless.
Thank you so much for having me. And I know we will be chatting very, very, very soon.
Love you.